Good morning, afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. It's an honor to speak with you about something deeply transformative. The power of mastering our minds to truly master our lives. Awareness is the foundation of any transformation. Without it, we are simply reacting to life rather than actively participating in it. Most of us go through our days on autopilot, driven by unconscious habits, automatic reactions, and conditioned responses. But here's the thing, the mind is incredibly powerful, and by becoming aware of how we think, feel, and behave, we begin to unlock the potential to consciously choose how we show up in the world. Awareness is the ability to observe our thoughts without judgment, to recognize the patterns that shape our behavior, and to understand the impact of our emotions. It's not about trying to control our thoughts, but rather about gaining the clarity to see them for what they are. This process allows us to step back from our immediate reactions and instead take a moment to pause and reflect on what's happening inside our minds. The beauty of awareness lies in the simple act of noticing. When we become aware of our thoughts, we begin to realize just how often we engage in self-limiting beliefs. We may not even be aware that we're telling ourselves, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never be able to do that." These thoughts might be so ingrained that we don't even question them. But awareness gives us the power to challenge these limiting beliefs and replace them with empowering ones. Think about a time when you felt overwhelmed or stressed. Perhaps you were juggling multiple responsibilities, trying to meet deadlines, or dealing with a difficult situation. In the midst of that, you might have experienced a surge of anxiety or frustration. Without awareness, you might simply react to that emotion by spiraling into more stress or shutting down. But when you're aware, you recognize that this feeling is temporary. You can observe your emotional state, understand what triggered it, and choose how you want to respond. This kind of awareness takes practice, but once we start cultivating it, it becomes a powerful tool for self-regulation. We realize that we don't have to be at the mercy of our emotions. Instead of letting fear, doubt, or anger control our actions, we can acknowledge these emotions, sit with them, and make more thoughtful decisions based on what truly serves us. Being aware also means recognizing the patterns in our behavior. We all have habits some serve us and others don't. It could be procrastination, self-sabotage, or seeking external validation. But unless we become aware of these patterns, they continue to shape our lives without our conscious input. Awareness allows us to take a step back and ask, why do I keep doing this? What's driving this behavior? This is where we start to uncover the deeper beliefs or fears that lie beneath our actions. For example, procrastination might not just be about laziness. It could stem from a fear of failure or fear of not being perfect. By becoming aware of this fear, we can start to address it instead of simply masking it with avoidance. Awareness also extends to the people and situations around us. Our external environment plays a huge role in shaping our thoughts and emotions. When we become aware of how certain environments, relationships, or circumstances affect us, we can make more intentional choices about where we spend our time and energy. If certain people drain you or make you feel small, awareness helps you recognize that you have the power to set boundaries and protect your mental space. Similarly, if a particular situation causes anxiety, awareness can prompt you to change how you approach it or seek support. One of the most profound aspects of awareness is that it allows us to live in the present moment. So much of our mental energy is consumed by the past or the future. We dwell on past mistakes, replay conversations in our heads, or worry about what might happen in the future. But when we are fully present, we are free from these distractions. We can focus on the here and now, responding to life's challenges with clarity and calmness, rather than reacting from a place of anxiety or regret. The present moment is where all true change happens. It's the only moment we have control over, and awareness helps us harness that control. It's like tuning into a radio station. When we're fully present, we can hear the message clearly without interference from past grievances or future worries. This moment right now is where we have the power to take action, make decisions, and shift our reality. Finally, awareness helps us to understand our own needs and desires. Too often, we live for others, trying to meet their expectations, fulfill their needs, or live up to their standards. But awareness teaches us to listen to our own inner voice. What do we really want? What do we need to feel fulfilled? What brings us joy? It's easy to forget these things when we're distracted by the world around us. But when we cultivate self-awareness, we give ourselves permission to honor our true desires and pursue what genuinely aligns with our values. In conclusion, awareness is not just about being mindful of the present moment, it's about creating a deeper understanding of ourselves, our thoughts, and our actions. It's about noticing the patterns that shape our lives, challenging limiting beliefs, and making conscious choices. When we step into the power of awareness, we are no longer passive observers of our lives. We become active creators, navigating our thoughts and emotions with intention and purpose. The more we practice awareness, the more control we have over our minds, and the more we can shape our lives in alignment with who we truly are. Vulnerability is often misunderstood. In a world that values strength, resilience, and perfection, vulnerability is often seen as weakness. It's something we try to avoid or shield ourselves from, especially in moments when we feel exposed, fragile, or uncertain. But the truth is, vulnerability is not a weakness. In fact, it's one of the most powerful sources of strength we possess. To embrace vulnerability as strength, we must first understand what vulnerability truly is. Vulnerability is the willingness to show up fully, despite the fear of judgment, rejection, or failure. It's the courage to open our hearts, share our true selves, and take risks even when we don't know the outcome. Vulnerability isn't about being perfect or having it all together. It's about being real, honest, and raw, even when that feels uncomfortable. In our society, we're often taught to hide our vulnerabilities. We're told to put on a brave face, to never show weakness, and to always appear confident and in control. This message is reinforced by social media, where carefully curated images of success, beauty, and happiness dominate our screens. But this focus on perfection creates a culture of disconnection. It separates us from our true selves and from each other. When we only present a polished version of ourselves, we are denying the rich, messy, complex nature of what it means to be human. Vulnerability, on the other hand, creates connection. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we open the door for others to do the same. We invite authenticity into our relationships and our interactions. People can sense when we are being real with them. And when we show up authentically, we create space for others to let their guards down, to share their own struggles and dreams. Vulnerability fosters empathy, understanding, and genuine connection. Consider the moments in life where we've experienced the deepest connections with others. It's often when we've been vulnerable that we've formed the most meaningful bonds. Think of a time when you shared something personal with someone, a fear, a dream, a struggle, and in response, they shared something of their own. That exchange of vulnerability creates trust and intimacy. It allows us to see each other as imperfect, yet worthy of love and acceptance. When we embrace vulnerability as strength, we also allow ourselves to grow. Growth cannot happen without discomfort. We cannot evolve into the best versions of ourselves by staying in our comfort zones, avoiding risk, or hiding behind walls. To grow, we must take risks, make mistakes, and fail. And when we do, vulnerability gives us the courage to face those failures, to learn from them, and to keep moving forward. This is where true resilience is built. Resilience isn't about never falling down, it's about getting back up after each setback, knowing that we have the strength to overcome adversity. Vulnerability is the starting point of resilience because it's the willingness to face the unknown, to take action despite fear, and to show up even when we feel unsure. Every time we take a step into vulnerability, we build our capacity to be resilient in the face of life's challenges. It's also important to recognize that vulnerability isn't about oversharing or putting ourselves in harm's way. It's about knowing when to be open, when to express our truth, and when to ask for help. Vulnerability is about setting boundaries too. It's not about being exposed to everyone. It's about knowing who you can trust and allowing yourself to be seen by those who will support you, not judge you. One of the most powerful ways to embrace vulnerability as strength is to stop hiding behind perfection. Perfection is an illusion, a mask that we wear to protect ourselves from the fear of judgment. But the truth is, no one is perfect. Everyone has struggles, insecurities, and flaws. When we stop trying to be perfect and allow ourselves to be authentic, we free ourselves from the pressure to live up to unrealistic standards. We give ourselves permission to be human. I think of the people you admire most, chances are they are the ones who have shown up as their true selves. They are the ones who have been vulnerable, who have shared their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs. Vulnerability creates an environment where people can relate to one another, where we can all connect on a deeper level. It's through vulnerability that we inspire others to step into their own power, to show up as their authentic selves, and to embrace their own vulnerabilities with pride. Furthermore, vulnerability is a pathway to self-compassion. When we embrace our imperfections and acknowledge our struggles, we create space to be kinder to ourselves. Instead of beating ourselves up for not being perfect, we can practice self-acceptance. We can honor our own humanity and treat ourselves with the same kindness we would offer a friend. When we embrace vulnerability, we stop expecting ourselves to have it all figured out. And we start accepting ourselves as we are, flaws and all. There's a beautiful paradox here. By embracing vulnerability, we become stronger. The more we allow ourselves to be open and honest, the more resilient we become in the face of challenges. We stop seeing vulnerability as something to fear or hide from, and instead we recognize it as the source of our greatest power. Vulnerability allows us to step into our full potential. It gives us the courage to take risks, to try new things, to speak our truth, and to be present in the face of uncertainty. When we embrace vulnerability, we give ourselves permission to be imperfect, to fail, and to grow. We stop seeing vulnerability as something to protect ourselves from, and instead we see it as the very thing that makes us human and whole. In conclusion, vulnerability is not a sign of weakness. It is the ultimate source of strength. It connects us to others, fosters growth, builds resilience, and allows us to live authentically. When we embrace vulnerability, we stop hiding from life and start living it fully. We find the courage to show up as we are, to take risks, to make mistakes, and to build deeper, more meaningful relationships. Vulnerability is not something to fear. It is the doorway to the life we were always meant to live. Self-compassion is the quiet force that allows us to face our challenges, imperfections, and vulnerabilities with kindness, understanding, and patience. Understanding in a world that often encourages us to be our harshest critics, to push through pain, and to constantly strive for more, self-compassion offers us a different, gentler path, a path that is rooted in care, acceptance, and love for ourselves exactly as we are. At its core, self-compassion is the practice of treating ourselves with the same empathy and understanding that we would extend to a close friend who is struggling. It's about recognizing our own humanity, the fact that we are all imperfect, we all make mistakes, and we all experience pain. It's about acknowledging our suffering, not with judgment or shame, but with warmth, gentleness, and the acknowledgement that it is part of being human. In a world where perfection is often praised, it can feel difficult to embrace our flaws, mistakes, and vulnerabilities. We may feel that we should always be strong, capable, and in control, and that any form of weakness or imperfection is something to be ashamed of. This mindset can lead us to be overly critical of ourselves, to ignore our own needs, and to suppress our feelings, believing that to be strong is to be flawless. But this kind of thinking is not only exhausting, it is also counterproductive. When we are constantly trying to meet impossible standards or beating ourselves up for not measuring up, we make it harder to heal, grow, and move forward. Self-compassion, on the other hand, creates the space for us to acknowledge our difficulties without self-criticism or judgment. It allows us to say, I'm struggling right now, and that's okay. I deserve kindness and care, especially for myself. Self-compassion vs. self-esteem. It's important to understand that self-compassion is not the same as self-esteem. Self-esteem is often based on external validation and comparisons to others. It's rooted in the belief that we are worthy of love and respect only if we are successful, competent, or accomplished. In contrast, self-compassion is unconditional. It is not based on achievement or comparison, but on the recognition that we are worthy of kindness and care simply because we are human. Where self-esteem can fluctuate depending on our performance or how we are perceived by others, self-compassion remains steady and unwavering. When we practice self-compassion, we learn to embrace our flaws and limitations, knowing that they do not define our worth. We are worthy of love, kindness, and care not because of what we do, but because of who we are. The 3 elements of self-compassion. Self-compassion is often broken down into 3 core components. Self-kindness vs. Self-judgment. This is the ability to treat ourselves with the same gentleness and care that we would show to a close friend in times of struggle. Rather than berating ourselves for our mistakes or shortcomings, we offer ourselves comfort and encouragement. We acknowledge our pain and say, "I'm here for you. You're not alone in this." This kind of kindness helps us face challenges without the weight of shame or guilt. Common humanity vs. Isolation. When we are struggling, it's easy to feel like we're the only ones who are experiencing pain, failure, or hardship. We may feel isolated, as though our suffering makes us different or unworthy. But self-compassion reminds us that suffering is a part of the shared human experience. Everyone at some point faces difficulties, whether emotional, physical, or relational. By acknowledging our struggles as part of being human, we free ourselves from the belief that we are somehow less than or alone. We are all in this together, and our pain connects us to others. Mindfulness vs. Over-identification. Mindfulness is the practice of being aware of our thoughts and feelings without judgment or attachment. In the context of self-compassion, mindfulness allows us to acknowledge our emotions without being consumed by them. It's about creating the space to observe our pain or discomfort, but not letting it define us. Over-identifying with our negative emotions, such as thinking, "I am a failure," or "I'll never be good enough," can make it harder to move past them. Mindfulness helps us acknowledge our emotions as temporary experiences rather than permanent truths about who we are. How self-compassion helps us heal. Self-compassion plays a vital role in healing, both emotionally and physically. When we face challenges, whether they be personal setbacks, health issues, or loss, we often turn to others for support and understanding. But what if we could provide that same level of support to ourselves? Self-compassion helps us break the cycle of self-criticism that can keep us stuck in a state of shame, guilt, or frustration. Rather than spiraling deeper into negative self-talk or the belief that we are unworthy of care, we can offer ourselves compassion, allowing us to heal. When we are kind to ourselves, we create a nurturing environment that fosters growth, self-acceptance, and emotional well-being. Research shows that self-compassion is associated with lower levels of anxiety, depression, and stress, and it can also boost our resilience in the face of adversity. This is because when we are compassionate with ourselves, we don't avoid or repress our emotions. Instead, we allow ourselves to feel them fully and then move forward with greater clarity and ease. Self-compassion in the face of mistakes. One of the most powerful aspects of self-compassion is its ability to help us navigate our mistakes and failures with grace. We all make mistakes. It's a natural part of life. Yet many of us have been conditioned to view mistakes as something shameful or to be avoided at all costs. This fear of failure can hold us back from taking risks or trying new things, leading to stagnation and self-doubt. Self-compassion allows us to reframe mistakes as opportunities for learning, rather than as evidence of our inadequacy. When we practice self-compassion in the face of failure, we can say, "I made a mistake, but that doesn't mean I am a failure." We can view our mistakes with curiosity, asking ourselves what we can learn from them and how we can grow from the experience. This shift in perspective empowers us to move forward with greater confidence and resilience. How to practice self-compassion. Speak to yourself kindly. Start by noticing your internal dialogue. When you make a mistake or face a challenge, ask yourself, would I speak to a friend this way? If the answer is no, gently shift your language toward kindness and encouragement. Acknowledge your suffering when you are struggling. Instead of pushing through or ignoring your feelings, take a moment to acknowledge your pain. Allow yourself to feel it without judgment. Remember, it's okay to not be okay sometimes. Treat yourself as you would a friend. Think of how you would comfort a friend in distress. Offer yourself the same compassion, understanding, and support. You deserve the same care you would offer to others. Let go of perfection. Recognize that being human means making mistakes. Let go of the unrealistic expectations of perfection and embrace the beauty of being imperfectly you. Conclusion. Self-compassion is a radical act of self-love. It is the foundation upon which we can build our lives, knowing that we are worthy of care and kindness, even in our darkest moments. By practicing self-compassion, we free ourselves from the harshness of self-criticism, embrace our humanity, and create the conditions for healing, growth, and happiness. When we learn to treat ourselves with compassion, we unlock the full potential to live a life that is not only kind to others, but also kind to ourselves. Taking intentional action is the process of moving through life with purpose, awareness, and a clear sense of direction. It's about choosing to act with intention rather than simply reacting to circumstances. In a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable, intentional action provides us with the clarity and control we need to align our daily choices with our deeper goals, values, and vision for the future. Intentional action is not about merely going through the motions, doing things for the sake of doing them, or getting caught in the trap of busyness. It's about making conscious decisions that reflect who we truly are, what we stand for, and where we want to go. It requires mindfulness, discipline, and a commitment to taking deliberate steps towards our desired outcomes, no matter how big or small. The difference between intentional action and mindless action lies in the level of consciousness and purpose that we bring to our decisions and behaviors. The importance of clarity and purpose. Before we can take intentional action, we must first gain clarity about what we want and why we want it. This involves understanding our values, our goals, and our vision for the future. It's easy to get caught up in the distractions of daily life, but when we lack clarity, we may find ourselves going in circles, feeling unfulfilled, or pursuing things that don't truly align with our deeper desires. Intentional action starts with asking the right questions. What do I want to achieve? Why is this important to me? How does this align with my core values? What will this bring into my life and the lives of others? When we know what we want and why we want it, we are in a better position to take purposeful steps toward those outcomes. This clarity acts as a compass, guiding us through the decisions we make and helping us stay on track even when life gets complicated. Aligning actions with values. Intentional action also requires alignment with our values. Our values are the core beliefs that guide us in life, the principles that define who we are and how we show up in the world. Whether it's integrity, kindness, freedom, creativity, or family, our values inform the way we make decisions and prioritize our time and energy. When we take action that is aligned with our values, we feel more fulfilled and authentic. Our actions reflect who we truly are, and we experience a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. Conversely, when our actions are disconnected from our values, we may feel drained, unmotivated, or lost. This is why it's crucial to periodically assess whether our actions are in alignment with what we hold dear. If we find ourselves acting out of obligation, fear, or external pressure, it's time to reevaluate our approach. Overcoming fear and doubt. Taking intentional action often requires us to step out of our comfort zones and confront the fear and doubt that can arise when we pursue something new. Fear of failure, fear of the unknown, and fear of judgment can all hold us back from taking meaningful steps forward. But when we understand that fear is a natural part of the process, we can move through it rather than be paralyzed by it. Intentional action doesn't mean acting without fear, but rather acknowledging the fear and choosing to move forward anyway. It means recognizing that uncertainty and discomfort are often signs that we are on the right path, stretching beyond our limits and growing into the next version of ourselves. By confronting fear with courage and commitment, we allow ourselves to take bold, decisive action that will lead us closer to our goals. Breaking down goals into actionable steps. One of the challenges of taking intentional action is overcoming the overwhelm that can come with big goals. Sometimes the larger vision feels so far away or unattainable that it's hard to even know where to begin. This is where breaking down goals into smaller, actionable steps becomes critical. Intentional action requires us to create a roadmap, a series of small, manageable tasks that lead us toward our desired outcomes. These steps should be specific, measurable, and achievable, and they should feel challenging yet within reach. By focusing on one step at a time, we avoid getting bogged down by the enormity of the journey and build momentum along the way. For example, if your goal is to write a book, instead of focusing on the intimidating task of writing an entire manuscript, break it down into smaller chunks, set aside time each day to write a specific number of words, or commit to writing a chapter every week. Each small action moves you closer to your ultimate goal. And over time, you'll find that consistent, intentional effort adds up to significant progress, building consistency and discipline. Consistency is a key aspect of intentional action. It's easy to feel motivated in the beginning, but the real challenge lies in maintaining that momentum over time. This is where discipline comes into play, the ability to stay focused and committed to our actions, even when it feels difficult or the initial excitement fades. Taking intentional action means showing up every day, even on the days when you don't feel like it, when you're tired, or when other distractions arise. It's about creating habits and routines that support your goals and priorities and sticking to them even when it's challenging. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about making incremental progress and trusting that the small, steady steps you take will eventually lead to transformation. Celebrating progress, not perfection. As we take intentional action, it's important to recognize that perfection is not the goal. Perfection can often lead to procrastination and inaction, as we fear not doing things perfectly or not measuring up to some unrealistic standard. Instead of striving for perfection, we should celebrate progress, the small wins, the lessons learned, and the growth we experience along the way. Taking intentional action means embracing the journey, even with its setbacks and imperfections. It's about being kind to ourselves when things don't go as planned and recognizing that every step forward, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. When we focus on progress rather than perfection, we release the pressure and create a more sustainable and joyful approach to achieving our goals. Taking responsibility for our actions. Another crucial aspect of intentional action is taking responsibility for the choices we make. It's easy to fall into the trap of blaming external circumstances, other people, or past experiences for where we are in life. But when we take intentional action, we acknowledge that we have the power to shape our own reality. Our choices matter, and we are fully responsible for the steps we take and the direction we choose. This means owning both our successes and our failures without making excuses or pointing fingers. Taking responsibility empowers us to learn from our mistakes, adapt our approach, and continue moving forward. It's a mindset that says, I am the author of my story, and I have the power to take control of my actions and my future. His conclusion. Taking intentional action is the bridge between vision and reality. It's the conscious effort to move from planning and dreaming into doing and achieving. By clarifying our goals, aligning our actions with our values, overcoming fear, breaking down big tasks into manageable steps, and building consistency, we create the momentum necessary to bring our desires to life. Taking intentional action doesn't guarantee an easy path, but it does provide us with the clarity, focus, and discipline to overcome obstacles and create the life we truly want. It's about making choices that reflect who we are and where we want to go, knowing that every step, no matter how small, brings us closer to the person we are meant to be. In conclusion, mastering our mind and taking intentional action are not one one-time events, but ongoing practices. It's a commitment to being conscious, kind, and courageous in the face of life's challenges. When we embrace self-compassion, move through our fears, and take purposeful steps towards our goals, we unlock the power to shape our lives in meaningful ways. In meaningful ways. Each moment is an opportunity to show up as our authentic selves, to make choices that align with our deepest values, and to move forward with unwavering intention. Remember, we are not defined by our past mistakes or our temporary setbacks. We are defined by the courage to take action, the wisdom to learn, and the resilience to keep going. As we master our minds and take intentional action, we not only transform our lives, but also inspire those around us to do the same. So let's commit today to be the architects of our future, to embrace vulnerability, to take risks, and to move forward with purpose. Because when we master our minds, we truly master our lives. Thank you.